everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be making a shadow box for Halloween. So I'm going to go through everything that you need to make this shadow box and any other shadow box that you might decide that you'd like to make in the future. So we are going to need a shadow box frame. This isn't actually the one I'm using in the video, this is a smaller one. This one is from Hobbycraft. The one I'm going to use in this video is from IKEA. They are quite cheap, not very expensive at all. So that's the first thing you're definitely going to need. You will need some lights for your shadow box. I am using these little cork stopper lights. Again, I got these from Amazon. You can get them from lots of different places though, and I do believe at the moment Poundland in the UK have the light up bottles, and you get the bottle and the lights for £1, so that's a bargain if you want to give this project a go. You're going to need some masking tape. I am using my spatula tool today as well. You are going to also need a brayer. If you've got one, definitely utilise it in this project. We're going to need to make sure we've got a really even pressure when we are putting our paper or cardstock onto the mat, and the only way to do that efficiently is to use a brayer tool. It doesn't have to be a Cricut one, it can be any brand of tool. Then you're going to need some foam pads. These are my favourite ones. I use them in 3D paper craft and 3D card stuff all the time, and you get a sheet of them inside. You get 400 odd in there, which is brilliant. You'll need your scraper, a ruler. You're going to need some paper for this. Now, don't go mad and use something that's really thick. This is 130 GSM cartridge paper, and it's from the Works. It was only £3 and it feels really substantial. It's really good. It'll let the light through, and that is what we want to do. Make sure your card's not too thick because it won't let the light through and you won't get the effect that you're looking for. And then last but not least, you're going to need your Cricut cutting mat. Today you'll need a light grip mat. We don't want to go any heavier than light grip, so certainly not a standard grip or a strong grip mat, because when you put your paper or your cardstock down onto it, when we come to take it off, we are going to be pressing it down quite substantially, and we don't want it to peel off and leave bits of itself behind on the mat. So with all that said, let's jump straight into making our shadow box. So this is the shadow box that I'm using today. It is from IKEA. It's the River shadow box, and I'm going to show you the first thing you need to do before you start with your cutting out of your design. So this is the shadow box, how it comes. It did have a little insert in it, but I've already taken that out. So what you'll need to do is turn your shadow box upside down, okay, and then you'll need to get these tabs open. They're quite stiff, so I'm just going to use my spatula to help me with that. So they are all up now, so we can remove the backboard, and it comes like this. So it's got a little cardboard mount board in it there, and then it's got this little insert as well, which probably takes away maybe ½ an inch on your distance from here, but this is what you need to measure. So you need to take this out, pop your frame to one side, grab a ruler and just measure from the inside to the other inside. Alright, so mine is 21.7 centimetres, so that is what I need to write down, and this is square, so 21.7 centimetres. Okay, so I've got that written down. So now I'm going to jump over to Cricut Design Space and adjust the sizing of my project on there. Here we are in Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to show you now how to get your image on your canvas and resize it. So mine is an uploaded image from a website called Happily Ever After Cricut Crafting. It's actually a Facebook page. So what you'll want to do is go on to upload, and then I've already uploaded it into my design space. So I'm now just going to click on insert images, And then once it's on the screen, you can see there all the different elements that are in this design on the right hand side in the layers menu. So we have got all of the ghosts that you can see floating on the top there, and then each other layer is in a different colour, and the reason that the designer's done that is to make it easy for us to see each different layer and each different element when we're looking at the design, because if it was all white like it's going to be when we cut it, then it would be very difficult to work with on the screen. Okay, so what you need to do first of all is just make sure that every layer is selected, okay, because if you go into the design and it's already ungrouped or not all grouped together properly, then you'll find that when you resize, you'll resize separate layers individually, and then that's going to really mess up your cutting process, because you want every layer to be the same size. So if you just go up to the top, you can select all there, and that is done. And you can see on the right hand side that all of the layers are now grey, and that means that they're all selected. All right, so we can see that at the moment that this is sized at 21.895 centimetres, and we want it to be 21.7. So if we go up to the top, what we want to do is make sure that the padlock is locked. We don't need to unlock the padlock in this instance. And then we're just going to click into the width box, and we're just going to type in 21.7 and press enter. And because we didn't unlock the padlock, it will make it proportionally the same, and because it's a square, it's going to make it 21.7 again. Now we are ready to do the cutting process. So all we need to do is just go up to make it on our design space. Okay, and you're going to see all of your different mats come up now. So you have got the ghosts on the first one, and then all of the different cuts there for all the other different layers, and there's quite a lot of pages to do. All right, so now if we just go to continue, and the computer will find the machine, and then we can look at our different materials. So if you are using the same type of material that I'm using, it's not a very heavy cardstock or anything like that. It's like a paper, and it is 130 GSM. So we can search for that over in the Browse All Materials section. I don't think there's going to be one that is 130. So just type in 130 and no results are found. So I'm going to go back to my materials page, and you can see that light cardstock would be 176 GSM. I'm not going to choose that because I think it's going to be too much. So I'm going to choose cardstock for intricate cuts. Cardstock for intricate cuts is my favourite setting for a project like this, and it will run over it twice as it cuts. So you don't need to do a second pass normally. So if I choose that one, and I have actually just changed my blade in the last week or so, so it's cutting really, really well. So I'm going to set my pressure today to less. If your blade is old, or you feel as though it's not as sharp as it used to be, or you're borderline changing your blade, then I would suggest setting your pressure to more, or leave it as default just to see how it comes out. Of course, you could do a test cut before doing this as well, just to make sure that you're going to get the right cut with your machine. So I'm using a light grip mat today, and the reason that I'm using a light grip mat is just to make sure that when I put my cardstock on here, when I come to take it off, it's not going to get overly stuck and tear. So I'm just going to line up my piece of card now for my first mat, and the first mat is just a load of ghosts, and it goes all the way across the top of the mat, so I don't need a full sheet of 12 by 12. So I'm just going to pop that on there, and then I'm going to give it a really good roll with my brayer. And like I said before, it's important that we do this to make sure that we've got a nice even stick on our mat. Sometimes we will use masking tape or painter's tape and go around the edges to hold it in place, but that doesn't actually help with the middle of the design. So if you were, say, cutting out something that's going to go all the way across here, we will find that once this bit starts to cut, if it's not stuck down adequately to the mat, it'll start to lift and then it's likely to jam up your machine, and we don't want that to happen. So that's nicely stuck down, so now we can cut it out on the machine. I'm just going to show you, because these ghosts are all cut out individually, you may need to use a spatula if you've got one to get them off the mat. You still bend your mat back, but you'll need to sort of flick them off individually. You could use your fingers as well. If your mat is stickier than what mine actually is, you may need to use a tool to help you, but if it's not too sticky, mine has been cleaned quite recently, so it's got quite a bit of its stick back, but it's not crazy sticky, so this is just to help with getting those off the mat there. So it's really important when you have done your cut on your mat to take it off your mat very carefully. So what we're going to do is to flip over the mat so that it's upside down, and then what we do is bend the mat back from your design rather than bending the material. So bend it back and just peel away the mat from the cardstock that is on the mat that you've cut out. Move it over a little bit. There we go. So that's come off there now. And the reason that we do that is because if we just pull this off like this, that's now got a real curl to it, as you can see. But because we've taken it off the way that we did, it's completely flat still, which is how we want it to be. So let's just flip it back over, and with that bit's come out really easily. So we need to now carefully take out the negative piece. So we're basically weeding it now like we would if it were vinyl. So that bit just comes out, and there's our layered piece ready to go into our shadow box. When you've removed the cardstock from your light grip mat, you might end up with bits left over like this, and you could pick them all off individually, but there's a quicker way of doing it. If you just grab your scraper and you can just scrape them all off to one side, and then you're ready to start with your next cut on your mat. Okay, so all of the layers are now cut out, and I think there are 8 layers of different cut out, and then we have my little cute ghosties as well that we will put on afterwards. So what I'm going to do is now show you how we assemble the shadow box and how to put the lights in effectively to make sure that it glows through nicely and creates the exact shadow effect that we are looking for with the shadow box. Okay, let's start assembling now. So the best way that I found to assemble a shadow box is to actually flip everything over and start with the bottom layer first, and then put each layer on separately. I'm going to get my design up on the screen. So I've got my design up on the screen again here. I'm just going to hide the little ghost, so I'm just going to click on the eye over here on the right hand side. So now what I want to do is to select all again at the top, and then I'm going to ungroup, and the reason that I want to ungroup is so that I can work out which order my layers are going to go in. Okay, so now that I've ungrouped, I'm going to be able to pull each layer out. So that is obviously the top layer, then the next one, and what I like to do is just lay them out on my canvas so that they are in order of how they're going to be put together. And so I've just shrunk my canvas down a little bit so that we can have enough space to see everything on the screen. Oops. In one go. So I'm going to be working from the bottom, so I'll be starting off with this black layer here, and that is what I've got here. So let's start off by getting my foam pads. I like these Bostik ones. They are 5mm by 5mm and they're pretty thick because of that measurement, which I find is great for making shadow boxes. So you can see there, you get one sheet in a pack. So what I'm going to do first of all is get my first layer, because I want to make sure that I'm not going to put a sticky tab somewhere where it's going to be seen. So I'm going to actually move all of these out of the way so that I can work with just my 2 layers. Okay, so that's what it's going to go onto, and this is what we're going to put our sticky tabs onto. So all you want to do is pop one into each of your corners first of all. So put them in the corners like so, and then what I like to do is put one in the middle on each of the outer edges. And at the top, and then what I'll do is put some dotted around on my house as well. I like to get quite close to the edges here. Make sure that we've got a nice even spread. I might put one on the tree as well just to firm that up slightly, and then just peel off all of the backings of those. Sometimes if the backings are difficult to get off, I'll use my tweezers to help, because they usually get quite a good grip on the little bits of paper. Okay, so I think I've got them all now, and all you want to do is carefully line up at the bottom with your bottom layer, and then I just drop it down onto there. You can move it as well, it will move until you absolutely press everything down. There we go. So that's the first layer, and now we're going to move on to the next one, which as you can see on the screen is the one with the spooky looking trees. So that's this layer here. So now I'm just going to do exactly the same thing with every single layer and stick them all together. With this layer, I just wanted to stop the time lapse and just show you something that I have just thought of, because now we've got a few layers in place here. I'm thinking about putting a little sticky tab on their heads and on the hat of this one, but I need to check whether there's something for it to stick to when it gets on here. So I'm just going to, I haven't taken the sticky covers off this yet, so as I thought, look, there isn't anything for it to stick to with her head, so I'm going to leave that one without a sticky tab on it, but I might, when it's in place, add one afterwards. So that's just something to think of when you're actually putting your shadow box together there. With this layer, I'm just going to add a few little extras in, but I'm doing it once I've stuck the layer down, and the reason for that again is just so I can make sure there's something for it to stick to. Just be careful that you don't overly bend your layers, because you don't want them to be sticking up in the wrong direction. Alright then, so we're on to the very last layer now, and these are the ghosts from the Haunted Mansion. So they are known as the hitchhiking ghosts, so we need to make sure that we get them on the right way round, so that needs to go over again. And this is our last layer. So let's just stick them on. There we go, that is the last layer done. So next up we need to pop the lights in. Okay, so here is the design in the shadow box, and I've got my light on, well, I've got my light behind here. So I'm going to switch it on and we'll see what it looks like, and hopefully what it's going to look like when we've got our other lights behind it. Wow. Doesn't that look amazing? I'm really impressed with that. So we need to get the lights now and put them behind the design. So this is a good way of just checking your placement of things, especially these ghosts up here. So I just wanted to make sure that they look okay. I'm quite pleased with that actually. Don't they look nice? You can see them all, and the hitchhiking ghosts at the front. Because these are the very front row, they're a little bit darker, so they look a bit more menacing, I think. But I love the hitchhiking ghost. What a fab design. Everything that I'm using in this project will be listed down below in the description box. So if you want to see a list of everything that I have used today, check out the description box and it will all be there for you. So let's grab our shadow box again. Okay, so here's the shadow box. Let's just see which way around it is. That's upside down. What I'm going to do is put my lights in, and I'm just going to very carefully stick them in with a little bit of masking tape first of all, and then I'm going to check the placement by turning off all the lights and just checking how it looks. So let's open this packet. So these lights come with a little tab in them which you need to pull out to activate them. So I'll pull that out and just check that they work, and they're nice and bright too. This is just normal masking tape, one that I've used in previous projects. I also use it to stick my mats down occasionally. What I like to do when I'm doing this is just stick it very gently onto the back layer, and I will go down like that. And I don't want to go too mad with sticking it down, because if I'm not happy with the placement afterwards, then I might want to change it. You can use any type of light that you'd like, of course. If you've got a small length of lights that you plug in, if you wanted to use those, you could do, or you could use LED strip light as well. But I found that that comes in the smallest size is 1 metre. And it's a lot of light for something like this, but you could use it if you wanted to. So the most important thing when you're placing your lights is to make sure that your end, when you're finished, is down at the bottom. So I'll just speed up the process on the screen now so that you're not waiting ages for me to do this. Okay, so I've got all my lights in now and I'm quite happy with the placement. I've just checked it in the downstairs loo because that is the darkest place I've got at the moment. So I'm just going to put a few more bits of tape on, and the reason for that is just to keep the lights as close to the board as possible. Just bear in mind that this isn't going to be as bright as it was with the big LED desk lamp behind it, but it does still give a really beautiful effect. If you want it to be more like the desk lamp effect, you'll need to use the LED strip lights for that. So what I'm going to do now is grab the piece of mount board that came with the frame, and I'm going to pop that into there. Okay, it's just to make it a little bit more sturdy. And then I've got my backing board as well, and conveniently on this one there's already a corner taken out of it, so I wonder whether they have cottoned on to the fact that people are using these and putting lights in them, because what we used to have to do was use a craft knife or something to score through that and cut the corner off so that it allowed for our wire to come out there. But we don't need to do that today with this one. So I'm going to just pop that in there, and then I'm going to fold over the backs of my frame. So I've just dropped the blind down in the craft room, and I've made it as dark as I can in here and turned everything off apart from the blue flashing light from my hard drive that you can see in the background. So now I'm ready to switch on the lights. Ta-da! Doesn't it look amazing? I'm so pleased with how it's turned out. It just looks so good. I can't wait to display it for Halloween. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that you found it useful. I really hope that you're going to make your own shadow box for Halloween now. As I said, this design is from a Facebook page called Happily Ever After Cricut Crafting. If you want to join there, I believe there is a waiting list at the moment, but definitely go over and join that page. There's so many ideas on there. Just be aware, everything on there is for personal use only. There is no selling and no sharing from that page, unfortunately. But if you are a member, you can use all of the resources that the Happilies provide. So thank you so much for watching. And all that's left to be said is have a great week. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!